everyone, welcome to tonight's Spinal workshop about weight loss during the holidays. Or we're going to turn this into kind of wellness and the basics for our health, because we're here and we're always a work in progress ourselves, right? We're never done working. I mean, when are we done with doing anything? We're never done learning. We're never done breathing. As long as you have a heartbeat, you have a purpose. So everyone starts from different points though, and one of the, it's an African proverb that if you want to go fast, you go by yourself. And if you want to go far, you go together. And so I'm pulling this in together. By the end, you'll see a lot. So feel free, this is very interactive. Stop me, ask questions, but I'll be repeating your questions for those online that are viewing this as well. And I have so many notes. It's very easy to go on a tangent for this, but what we're about to do is embark on a journey. And what I would beg of you to do is just enjoy the journey, not be attached to the outcome. Because when we start to feel guilty or depressed about some of the decisions we might make, it just brings us down any further. So I always want you to be the most positive version of yourself and just enjoy where you're at, even if it does mean you made a mistake or made a bad choice, and that's okay. But we're here to apply the principles to help ourselves. And that's the biggest thing any person can do, is that when we work on ourselves, we make ourselves better, which helps make the people around us better, which makes the world a better place, right? So here's the thing to think about, is what's the most important thing to take care of?
Your body.
Yourself, right. I was hoping you guys would say that. But now that we know we're taking care of ourselves, what's the next thing about you we need to take care of?
Your health.
What do you need for health? Let's put it that way.
Energy, food.
Food, okay.
Water.
Water,
Sleep.
sleep,
Exercise.
exercise. I think there's at least two more.
Vitamins?
I'm gonna put that under food, vitamins, nutrients,
Adjusting?
so you're going with spine, so that is our nervous system. What does the medical field often look to? What's the first test they want to do on your will check?
Blood.
Blood test. So what about our blood? So last Spinal workshop, and which is online too, you can go back and look at it, we talked about pH balancing, which is part of that as well, but it's also air, the air quality. So blood brings oxygen to all parts of our body in order for it to work. So air, circulatory, blood system is what's needed for health as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna prioritize these. Now, here's the biggest thing though, one is not necessarily better than the other. And if one's not working, it decreases the value of money of the others. So I'm gonna give you, and you guys might be able to tell me this, how long can we go without food?
Like 24 hours?
Food? Have you ever heard of fasting?
Yeah, isn't it?
I was gonna say, isn't it like 3 days or something?
It's like 20 to 40 days.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, 20 to 40 days you can go without food. And that depends on the quality of water or anything else you might be drinking though too. It could be a week if you're parched as well. How long can you go without water?
Ooh, like 3 days.
3 days. How long can you go without sleep before your system will shut you down?
Like 48 hours?
Isn't it 5 days?
It could be. It depends on the studies that you're looking at. The most consensus that I find is about 72
Oh, I
hours.
was about to say 72. Ooh.
Oh, you're so smart.
Come sit down.
How long can you go without exercise?
Well,
Your whole life.
Years. Years, if not decades. Nervous system. How long can you live without that?
So your neck goes back.
I know lots of bad necks. They're still alive. 0 seconds.
yeah.
We need that to control everything. It is our operating system that controls everything else. How long can you go without air?
Yeah, 4 minutes.
4 to 6 minutes. So if we use this about how long we need them in order to prioritize what we need, we can break it down that our nervous system should be our first priority. If we're not taking care of that, everything else diminishes. No matter what you put into your body, no matter what exercise you're having, if your nervous system is not functioning, you can still be at, I'm breaking the word apart, not diseased, but dis-ease. Your body is not working as easy as it should be, okay? What comes next? It's a combination, oh nope, it's air and blood, 2. Then it's a combination of sleep and water. We're gonna get those tied for 3. Food gets in there at number 5 and 6 for exercise. However, when we start talking about where our health diminishes, what's one of the first things we think about?
That we need to exercise.
We need exercise and we need food. Whoa! Is that not a little bit backwards? Which I get it, and that's what this whole thing is going to be about, but I'm here to give you tools to work on the most prioritizing things first so that you can function better on all levels. And like I said, if we start working on food or getting the right vitamins and nutrients in our system, then our nervous system is going to work better too. Our air quality is going to be better. Our blood quality is going to be better. Our sleep might be better if we're getting the right type of vitamins as well, because it all works together. Everything is connected. So know how much our quality of life relies on these so that we can prioritize the need to take care of the things that we need most. The other thing we're going to be going into tonight is planning, because failure to plan is planning to fail. So in the topic of weight loss during the holidays, we want to talk about, if I'm faced with X scenario, how am I going to handle that? And premeditating that is going to help set us up for success. So first, we're going to break down the nervous system. What are ways to take care of your nervous system?
Justin.
Getting adjusted. Seeing your chiropractor on a regular basis to make sure that your subluxations are not interfering as much as they should be. I also wrote down journaling. This also, it's our brain, it's part of our mental stress, meditation. Yep. Gaining perspective, so that positive, negative attitude, having more gratitude really helps well, and yoga. Yoga helps with the breath and the motion, and when our nervous system, our joints get more motion and proprioception, it functions better. So those are a couple tools. Number 2, air, deep breathing exercises. That falls in meditation and yoga in there as well. Air quality. So this can also, people that can change their air quality. I see lots of people that, especially this time of year when things start to get cold and damp, mold is in the air, people come in with more allergies or sinus infections or issues. And sometimes we can't avoid it if we're having like allergies or it's outside air quality, but sometimes it's in our house too. I've seen it in bathrooms, like that black mold that can arise, mildew. If our areas that we live in, our environments, are not clean, it also affects our health. What are ways to fix that though? What I recommend and what I run in my office too are air purifiers, and there are different quality of air purifiers as well. Skipping back, I told you I had notes and I could go on a tangent. So the nervous system really breaks down into 2 parts, and it breaks into many parts depending on how you're thinking about it. However, I wanted to break it down into the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Now, sympathetic is what most people live in. That's the fight, flight, or for most women, it's tend and befriend. There's an issue, I'm going to take care of it. The parasympathetic is rest and digest. How often do you think we're actually living with that parasympathetic running unbalanced? Not often. Not often at all. So those are things that we just want to watch for in the nervous system that can help us, whether with our actions, how our perspective, how we handle scenarios in life. In fact, I don't even believe in chaos anymore. I just believe that life happens, and what I am working on most is how I react to it, right? So that is gaining perspective. Number 3, we're gonna go with water first. The quality of our water really matters. Okay, there's a difference between purified drinking water. Guess where that comes from? Purified drinking water comes from the tap, probably in Missouri. Someone turns on their sink and fills it up, basically. It's the same thing that you get out of your faucet. Versus spring water actually comes from a well spring. You're not going to get the chlorine or the fluoride in that as well. Question.
Is it normal to feel sick when you drink spring water?
Is it normal to feel sick when you drink spring water? So it could be your normal. Some people have problems with the taste of it because you are getting more minerals. And sometimes people do have reactions to minerals as well, or maybe your body is lacking some. So actually when your body reacts to having that mineral in your body, it's just reacting differently, or depending on your medications as well, that could have an interaction. So, but overall, I do recommend spring water. You have to pay that extra like $1.50 in order to get it. And then distilled water is like neither. It's just water, which is good for certain reasons too. I use distilled water in our Keurig, so it makes the life of our Keurig last longer. Sleep. It all depends on timing, what time you get to sleep. In fact, there's some Chinese organ clocks out there on the internet too that suggest that you need to be in bed between 10 and 11 because our organs start to shut down and reboot every night in order for normal body production of certain chemicals and hormones. Position matters. If we're sleeping on our sides, our stomach, our backs, sleeping on your stomach should be avoided at all cost. And of course, if we're sleeping on our sides, we want to think our spine to be the most neutral position to help our nervous system. So if we're on our sides, we don't want a pillow that goes down and we don't want a pillow that goes up. And then if we're on our sides, a lot of people like to do this, where there's one knee over the other. But the general rule is making sure your knees are together. So you can be like this. They can be bent. That's fine. You just want to make sure that your spine is in the most neutral position. Back is easy too. It's one of the best ways to sleep. But if you have a pillow and it's pushing your neck up like this puts my head into flexion and I lose the neck curve, which also puts stress on the nervous system. Screen time. When should you stop screen time before sleep?
30 minutes before.
At least 30 minutes before. How much screen time is recommended by the American Association of whatever?
Isn't it like 7 hours a day or less?
You're recommended to have 7 hours of screen time?
Recommended.
I thought, isn't it like 2?
1 hour.
Oh my gosh.
1 hour of screen time a day is what is recommended, no more than that. And we are on overload.
Mhm. And we're
Overload.
teaching overload.
Yes, and so a half hour before going to bed, there should be no screens at all. So our brains can start to shut down. The light emitted from screens does play tricks with our eyes and our brain, thinking that it's longer daytimes.
And then sleeping with your phone by your head.
Oh, sleeping with you, that's a whole other class. Sleeping with your phone by your head. I mean, the energy that our cell phones put out is not good. So food, this is the biggest category I wanted to get into and what most people choose to do because we're starting a wolf pack challenge and we're gonna be going into that a little bit more. But food tends to be the biggest problem and is the most unbalanced, right? In the typical American diet, it's called SAD, Standard American Diet, we're way off balance. I mean, especially if you come to like the right fatty acids that we're supposed to be taking in, like the omega-3s, there's supposed to be an omega-6 and omega-3 ratio, and it's supposed to be like 4-to-1, and it's completely off balance. It's like 15-to-1, if not more, in the standard American diet, which then throws all sorts of things, even our healing off, because those omega-3s are really important to help with inflammation. And I believe there's some studies out there for heart health as well, but don't quote me on that one. So don't be like your food. Don't be fast. Don't be cheap. Don't be easy. Okay, we have to plan this. Okay, so things to plan. Now this really breaks it down, and when we go into our wolf pack challenge, is that you get to decide what's right for you. I can't tell you what is right for every person. There's keto, there's intermittent fasting, there's paleo, there's the Whole30. All of them work. They just don't all work for all the people. It really depends. Individualize this. Find out what works for you. If you need a sit down or connection, we can work on that. Or if you want to learn about something else, I'm here for you. But not just planning on what to eat or what plan you might follow, but meal prepping. Okay? Not, making sure you're not going to get into a place where you're starving right now and therefore you do reach for something fast, cheap, and easy. Okay? Making sure you have snacks packed with you everywhere you go. Making you have a shopping list. That you don't just go around the grocery store buying because we fall into habits, right? Like, oh, well, I'm familiar with this brand, and we continue to grab the same brands, whether it's good for us or not. What are you gonna do when you're tempted? So even going to the grocery store, what's the first thing you see?
Cupcakes.
Yeah.
The cupcake
Bakery
table.
stuff,
Oh, the
yeah.
Halloween candy right now, right? It's bad. It's designed to not set you up for success at all, for you to do those fast, cheap, easy temptation choices. So write down your plan. When I see this, I'm going to look the other way. I am going to pinch myself. I am going to anything to deter you from that temptation. You have to do 10 jumping jacks, or even if you're in the middle of the store and you got to do those one-stepper things, just to do something and be like, nope, there's got to be a consequence when we're going that way. Plate portions. Oh, we got to erase this. Let's get into plate portions. I'm going to run out of time on this final workshop. There's so much to talk about when it comes to food. Okay, anyone remember the pyramid?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where they're like in the pyramid, this baseline was grains, right? And in the Whole30, some of them work, but make sure if you are going for grains that you are going for whole grains. A lot of breads are bleached, enriched flours that really provide no nutrients for us. And then it was meats, and then they divided like your fruits and vegetables over here. And then I think milk and cheese, dairy, and sugar was even on this thing. That's not cool. What they're teaching today, which I'm much more on board with, is a plate. And so they still have protein as the main one. I disagree with that. I think in the standard American diet, protein's way too easily accessible. So I believe we should only be limiting ourselves to 4 to 6 ounces of protein meat, and typically not red meats either. You want something like a more poultry or fish. So the size of your fist is what you should be doing, and that's per day. Right now in the standard American diet, that's per meal, you know? So your proteins are there. Then they say these veggies should be about 40%. I say the veggies should be more than 50% of your plate. They put starch on here. I'm okay with starches as long as they're healthy, natural starches. An apple, green beans, not rice, not corn, not potatoes. And that is kind of what they're teaching. Not like Thanksgiving's coming up, no stuffing, that type of thing. And then they have this other stuff like divided here, like fruits on the outside and milk or dairy, which could be whole other workshops on themselves. So there are the right foods to eat, because when I teach veggies, there's really only 5 or 6 veggies that we should be eating. All the rest are under starches. So like when it comes to peppers, green beans, peas, those are actually starches. More carbohydrates than they are on the fiber part. So the veggies we should be eating are the green leafy stuff, the kale, spinach, the iceberg lettuce has 0 nutritional value, it's just water. So the dandelion stuff, the spring mix, broccoli, asparagus, and Brussels sprouts are the basic only 3 that are the green leafy vegetables that aren't a salad type. So highly recommend going towards them. Meal times. Prepping what time we should eat. In fact, I practice intermittent fasting, so I choose not to do a breakfast. And that works well for me. Not everyone can do that. Diabetics have to really watch their timing on eating too, watching their blood sugar spikes. That should not be happening. But typically, your largest meal should be at your busiest time. So for me, that should be my lunch. But what we do most of the time, it's dinner for most Americans. Mm-hmm. We eat the most, we come home tired and fatigued, we stuff our faces, and then we will sit in front of the TV and go to bed 2 hours later. Mm-hmm. And that should not be happening. That's what we should change, is that we should have smaller dinners and larger lunches, because we're much more active during the day, allowing for that digestion to actually take place while we're upright, rather than sitting stagnant and still. Which then leads me to exercise, stagnant and still. How long do you have to go without exercise to be considered in a sedentary lifestyle? 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, your muscles actually start to atrophy. They start to die. That's not okay. 2 weeks. So I believe my numbers are coming from Johns Hopkins study on some of the chronic disease. And that's one of my commercials that I gave about chronic illnesses. In fact, 60% of people are dying too young. They're dying due to diseases that are usually preventable and highly linked to chronic inflammation. That's heart disease, that's some types of cancers, that is diabetes. This stuff isn't good, guys, and it's preventable. 60% of people are dying too young. That's 2 out of 3 people. And it's things that we can prevent by making one decision at a time. So my numbers come from that if we exercise, I believe it's Johns Hopkins study on health, around the chronic inflammation and the 5 highest causes of disease, is standard. Just to maintain weight, you need to be walking 3 to 4 times a week, 30 minutes with purpose, more than what you are already on your feet. So if you are already walking, I don't care if it's 8,000 steps or more, and you're like, no, I get my exercise in. If that's what you do on a regular basis, that's what your body is used to. You have to do a half hour more 3 to 4 times a week in order just to maintain, right? And that's, yeah, just to maintain. We gotta jump it up. We should also be stretching 30 to 45 minutes a day. So that's why I'm a really big advocate of yoga. That one's not from Johns Hopkins. That is some of my other studies that I have done. However, there is good news for you guys, where you can make this a little bit simpler. So in the You Are the Placebo book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's a chiropractor. He does amazing books about, even the supernatural is another one of his books. But in You Are the Placebo, it talks about how that mental attitude can really make a difference in how your body actually reacts. Okay, so there's a study in there he goes over that even people who thought about exercising for 30 minutes a day, like they really visualize themselves doing the exercises, those people still got 30% muscle mass increase. You can trick your brain into all this other stuff, so it is about what you believe. Now, this is not proven you gotta be really strong mentally, but you can even start to believe things like, or where are your limiting beliefs, at least using it that way. If you eat this piece of cake, it's gonna go straight to my thighs. That's a limiting belief. So, and I've actually tested myself on this too, because I'm trying to cut out sugar, with my caffeine's affecting my body. So I really have been looking at some of this stuff, and I use galvanic energy testing. And I tested my body against sugar, coffee, and one other thing I can't, chocolate. And you know, those are like the bugaboos, those are my vices. And so I actually, after I spent 6 weeks really telling myself, all right, this is either good for my body, in which I make my coffee very basic, basic, so it's not an acidic thing. And I put more MTC oils in it too. To make it more fatty acid, so it has a better reaction. So, and I eat dark chocolate as well. So the sugar, as long as organic cane sugar, the chocolate, and the coffee actually had 0 effect on my body based on the galvanic energy test that I was doing with the doctor. But I had to really train myself to do that. And so as long as I believe it, we can do that. It had 0 effect, but not a positive effect, but not a negative effect either. All right, so if we don't make the time to do what we need to do now for ourselves and our health, our body's gonna make us take the time later. I see people all the time in their 50s, 60s, sometimes younger, that come in and say, I was fine last week. And then I show them a problem that's been there for years, if not decades. It didn't happen just last week. That's when we started to feel the problem. So we need to take the time now in order to be our best versions tomorrow, because how old do we want to live? So let's pretend you live to be even 86, which more and more people, the biggest growing population right now are people getting into 100 years old. It's amazing what's going on right now. And if you were to live that long, let's say 86 to 100 years old, what would you want your quality of life to be? Because most people I'll sit down with and I'll ask, if you live to be 100, and their first reaction is, God, I hope I don't live that long. But that's only because we're picturing 100 years old to be broke, crippled, and alone. What if it was healthy, vibrant, and well-connected? These are the choices that we have. And so I was listening to some doTERRA research as well. So those are the essential oils that I work with. And they were talking about our lifespan. So if this is 0 to 100 versus our health span. So I really like this chart. And so when we're young, we're typically really healthy. And as we get older, that declines. Then you got medicine that comes in. And when we're young, we're typically not on medicine. And it might make our lives a little bit better and a little bit longer. There's this hump. But what if we actually changed our lifestyles and the way we lived? The possibility could look much more like this. we can extend our own life based on what we are giving ourselves and how we are treating ourselves as well. But your best choice, your best life starts with the choices you make. And we're faced with hundreds of choices every day. Even simple thing is whether I sit or stand. Sitting's the new smoking. That's one of the spinal workshops I used to give. So I'm going to tell you a story. I hope I don't bobble this. There's an Indian chief teaching his grandson about life and the way the world is. And he says, in every person, there are two wolves, a good wolf and a bad wolf. The good wolf is love, gratitude, joy, giving, forgiveness. And the bad wolf is hate, anger, violence, vengeance, depression, greed. And they're always constantly warring each other. Well, the grandson asks his grandfather and says, which wolf wins? And the chief says, the one you feed the most. We are the ones that get to choose which one we feed. Your best life starts with the choices that you make. And I'm hoping you make the good choices. You feed the good wolf. And that's why I'm asking you to join the Wolfpack Challenge. That's why we need a Wolfpack Challenge, to help us hold each other accountable. Now, what you're gonna face in the Wolfpack Wellness Challenge is you get to set your own plan. Whatever you wanna do for the next 12 weeks, we're just gonna help hold you accountable. And we're gonna post. You can post daily, you can post once a week. There'll be a participation award. There'll be prizes. We're gonna make this fun. But the biggest thing is that you stay in conversation, that you feel the support behind you, the cheerleaders, in order to keep egging you on. You're gonna learn about me. I'm gonna be posting in this every day. You're gonna learn about my failures, my successes, some things that I might do. And that's what makes us human. But when I do something that is not great for my body, or I do mess up, or I choose to be mindful about a bad decision I know is not the best life for me, I now have a wolf pack behind me that's gonna support me to make the next best decision. So I can't thank you guys enough for showing up, because that's what it's all about. If we want to go fast, we can go by ourselves. But if we want to go far and actually make the lifestyle changes, we need to go together. So thank you for being here, and find out more how you can join. Doesn't matter when you join. Doesn't have to be right at the beginning. Join at any time. And right after our Wolfpack Challenge ends in January, in February we're starting a water challenge. So stay tuned, guys.